Hello, and welcome back to Scale to Exit with Alejandra Santos, checking in from Arizona. If you are on YouTube, you can see that the setting is completely different behind me. But I'm very excited to bring this guest today. His name is Jonathan Wilson. And Jonathan Wilson is coming here to share his journey on how he became an M&A advisor. He's going to share a few stories about some exits that he has done, as much as he can share, because it's always very private information. He's also going to enlighten us with the definition and differentiation of what a broker is, besides an M&A advisor, and also a securities officer. So he's going to explain that to us. He's coming here to tell you guys that you better get your exit ready ahead of time, because time is of the essence when it comes to preparing an exit for your business. And yeah, he's going to really share, which in a lot of episodes we already have talked about, but he brings a really fresh perspective on why choosing the right buyer is the most important decisions that you're going to have throughout your whole exit journey for your business. So yeah, let me read you his bio. That way, you guys know who Jonathan Wilson is. So, Jonathan Wilson serves as the CEO and Chief Value Creator for Dobb Value Creation, a boutique investment bank and management consulting firm focusing on mergers and acquisitions for companies with revenues under 50 million. Jonathan's background originated with almost 20 years focused on partnering with division level and corporate level executives within Fortune 500 companies through his former employers, Accenture, Bank of America, Deloitte Consulting, and Grant Thornton. In addition, Jonathan has an MBA in General Management and International Strategy from UCLA Anderson School of Management. Combining his business acumen, experience, and education, Jonathan is an effective problem solver and connector, adept at defining business strategy, leading buy-side and sell-side M&A opportunities, implementing strategic business growth initiatives, and managing through crisis and change. In addition to leading his company, Jonathan volunteers as board members for the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, former chair and current member for the Social Justice Advisory Board for the City of West Hollywood, and president emeritus for the UCLA Anderson Black Alumni Association. Woo! So that's who is coming on the podcast today. And he's an amazing person. He does everything from his heart. He is created his company to serve business owners, to help them achieve the value that they deserve to have, and the exit that they really do deserve to have as well. So with that being said, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Okay. We packed really good information on this podcast episodes, and we bring amazing experts at their field. You already know it. That brings really good insights for you to run your business, scale your business, and also prepare your business for an exit. So please just like, share, and comment. We really appreciate the support at Scale to Exit. I'm talking from behalf of the Scale to Exit team, which we put so much effort into bringing each and one of episodes for you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring him in and enjoy the episode. I will see you on the other side. Thank you for coming to Scale to Exit, Jonathan Wilson. I am so excited to have you here. You are an M&A advisor, investment banker. You go ahead and help businesses get the exit that they deserve, match them with good buyers. But I am really more interested in knowing what drives your passion to having your consulting business, your M&A practice, and do this whole transaction in the M&A world.
Wow. First of all, thank you for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity. And yes, in general, I think my desire to help small business owners really does drive my passion. I think by nature, I'm kind of a person that believes in being of service. Even when I go back to childhood, I always wanted to volunteer to help people. And this is one of those things where, from a consulting perspective, the career that I chose was management consulting originally. And that was really to help businesses grow and to help them identify new opportunities in the stretch. And then when I started thinking about it, I said, it's not the big companies, the Fortune 100 companies that really need the help. I was really helping the man get more money for the man. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. So I was like, how do I help small businesses? And that's where kind of my passion became a little bit better used.
So you have a lot of multiple hats. So you are working with You have Dub Value Creation, which is your consulting firm. Then you have
Mhm.
Horizon M&A, you're working with, and then Finalis
Mm-mm.
Securities. No, you work
No.
with Horizon. No.
So, go good. Thank you for bringing it up. So, no, Horizon was a company that I had my broker license under. This is
Okay.
like 2 years ago. So they were kind of a partnership, if you will. But Dub Value has always been around. Dub Value has been around for 7.5 years. Finalis is my broker dealer.
Oh,
So
okay.
for the investment bank. And
Okay.
so as a as an investment bank, you have to have a broker dealer
Mhm.
also that you work with. And so, I don't want to pay for compliance. So I have another company that I pay for to do all my
Yes.
compliance stuff.
Yes, and that's
Makes my
smart.
life a little bit easier.
That's a smart way of doing business.
Why pay for it
So
when you can lease it or buy it, right?
why correct. Oh my God. So, okay, but let's go into the differences because I don't think that anybody that's listening understands like what's the difference between a broker dealer, investment banker, what kind of deals you do, like what is the difference between all of those?
Yeah, so I love that you said that because we actually have all three licenses and we did that on purpose. And we also lead by saying that we're an investment bank and a management consulting firm. And the reason why we say the management consulting part of it, because it's very important that people understand that we're with them on the journey the entire way, right? We want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we're able to explain all the difficult concepts. We're able to
Mm-hmm.
walk them through a true framework and methodology. We're able to help them understand, what does it mean when someone says acquisition, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean when someone says due diligence, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
integration? These are all big terms to people, and they actually are scary terms to a lot of people, right? So we want to make sure that people understand that from end to end. The other side is that there really are three areas of M&A. One is investment banking, right? And that's typically what people see as being like the larger big companies and they're, buying somebody or they're being bought. And, when you think of like Bank of America, buying out, Countrywide Financial, you think of an investment banker that would work on that and they get a success fee.
Mm-hmm.
Then you think of business brokers, those are your mom and pop shops, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so those are, your corner liquor store, your corner grocer, maybe the
Mm-hmm.
pharmacy down the street from you,
Mm-hmm.
retail stores that you might go to that aren't really big names. So you think of business brokers that work on that, even restaurants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are actually run by different entities. So investment banking is actually run by the SEC and
Mm-hmm.
FINRA within that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's on a federal level.
Mm-hmm.
Your business brokers actually are run on a state level,
Mm-hmm.
and they vary by state, right? They have different rules and regulations, and it's also the same thing typically as getting your retail, not retail, your real estate license, right? And then the third thing is obviously M&A advisor, where legally you aren't supposed to be able to do any negotiating for the deals if you are not a licensed business broker or investment banker.
But there is still like a thin line, right? Between if you are an M&A advisor, you really cannot work on the transaction piece because there could be a compliance. How does that work?
Technically, technically, you can be sought after and penalized by the SEC or by the Department of Real Estate in any given state if you are trying to negotiate and work on the transaction as a representative of the company. If you are on the side also just helping and advising, there's a thin line, but you have to really make sure that you're walking that thin line. At the end of the day, though, we wanted success fees, and really, there was really no ifs, ands, or buts on getting some sort of license to be able to get the success fees because we felt like we were leaving money on the table.
Okay. So for a business owner that wants to like sell, for example, their business in Main Street, like what kind of people do they need to work with? Do they need like the broker and the M&A
Mm-hmm.
advisor, or
Mm-hmm.
just one of those will suffice?
Well, that's why we actually decided to get all three, because we
Okay.
actually wanted to make sure that we can work with anybody,
Okay.
right? Our only requirement is that you have at least $1 million in revenue.
Okay.
But, at the end of the day, though, it's the same process. It's
Okay.
just it, it's just someone deciding if they want to make more money on a deal or not, right? So that's where the parameters apply. So do I want to work on a $100 million deal, or do I want to work on a $2 million deal? It requires the same amount of energy. So those are the questions that people are making.
Which one you find more valuable? What kind of deal? The 100 million or the $2 million deal?
I've actually worked on both. I've even worked on a
Yeah.
$3 billion deal.
Yeah.
To be honest, they're all super fun.
Okay.
I get a little bit more joy. I got a lot of joy out of the 9-figure one, but I definitely get a lot of joy out of helping smaller businesses though, because it's just like these are people that are going to be impacted.
Hmm.
This is life changing for them,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Their families, their legacy,
Hmm.
everything is going to change, right? And so
Yeah.
you're really helping them live their dream
Yeah.
ultimately, because
Yeah.
that's a business owner's dream.
Yeah. No, I love that you said that. You and I share that passion. That's why this
Mm-hmm.
podcast is here. Your experience is just so, broad on the exit side. What has been, have you seen like founders or business owners come to you unprepared a lot? And can you can you share an experience of that? And what would you tell people to get prepared ahead of time if they're planning to sell?
Yeah. Sell side readiness is a really big issue.
Yeah.
And yes, I have seen that quite a bit where people don't know their financials.
Yeah.
They think they know their numbers, but they
Yeah.
aren't really sure. Or maybe one of their employees has access to their financials, but they haven't really looked at it in like 5 years. So
Okay.
it's one of those things that that happens quite a bit. I can give
Hmm.
you multiple examples of that. It's almost like, I mean, I literally was talking to someone the other day where they told me that they haven't really looked at their financials. They think they make this.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that happens quite a bit. And when it comes to EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization,
Hmm.
most business owners have no idea what that is. And
Hmm.
essentially, if you were to use something like QuickBooks Online, it's essentially that, net operating income line,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
so that's the line that you use most of the time. It's almost the equivalent.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, that does happen a lot.
So, how like they come to you really with unprepared, right? What are
Mm-hmm.
the mistakes that you see the most? Is it on operations, in the finance side, on the marketing side? Maybe the growth is not there, and they think they want to sell, but the valuation is not there either. What can you share some mistakes?
Yeah, I think part of it, there's a few things here, right? One, you want to make sure that the owner is not in the center. And
Hmm.
I think that is one of the biggest issues
What, the owner
that
cannot
I've
be sold
seen.
with the business? Are you serious?
Isn't that crazy? It's weird. You can't sell your business if you're in the middle of everything. It's a crazy concept that no one wants to buy that, and you can't leave even if they do want to buy it. I
Yeah.
know it's weird. The second, the second biggest thing I'd probably say is that an owner has to have a vision
Hmm.
for what he wants to do after he or she wants to do after the business is sold. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times people do have that panic moment of, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to sell anymore. So I
Hmm.
always make sure in the very beginning that I know exactly what the owner's plans are post transaction, because yeah, we can't have any, red herrings happening. We have to know. And I'd probably say that the third thing is making sure that you have a team that is well equipped to run the business without you. Even if you're not in the center, sometimes if you're very directive all the time, or if the business is always being reinvented and people don't know where things are and don't know how to run itself, it doesn't
Hmm.
have processes, it doesn't have some of the key things that you
Yeah.
need to thrive as a business,
Okay.
infrastructure wise.
Hmm.
I think those are the three things I'd probably prioritize over anything else.
Okay.
Of course,
Oh,
being
wow.
profitable is
Yeah.
probably another one, but yeah,
Have some revenue traction, be profitable. Okay.
yeah.
So when it comes to like let's talk about your consulting days, because how was your journey started? Did you started as consulting, right? You created
Yeah.
that value, and then you got your M&A. Yeah, walk me through all your journey steps.
Oh, wow. When I was two, I'm just kidding.
So let's go all the way
No,
to two.
yeah, when I was two, we can start early then. No, but I started my career as a consultant with Accenture, and so
Okay.
my focus was really working with companies on what we called process at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding what end to end looked like, and
Mm-hmm.
helping companies really examine, where they had shortcomings or
Mm-hmm.
oversights or mistakes or things like
Mm-hmm.
that. We actually found the gaps and helped them optimize.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fantastic opportunity for about 5 years, working with all Fortune 100 companies and Fortune 500 as well. And then I decided, hey, why don't I go work for the number one lender in mortgage, Countrywide Financial? Well, it was quite the journey. It was fantastic. It was 2004 when I joined. I ended up working my way up to become VP of wholesale lending,
Okay.
strategic planning and intelligence. So I'm sitting there, and then one day while I'm in the middle of going back to school, because I did the part time with our fully employed MBA program at
Mm-hmm.
UCLA,
Mm-hmm.
the floor fell from under us. Basically, the market crashed. Everything that we had, everything we saw coming
Mm-hmm.
came to a head.
Mm-hmm.
And I was now in the center of little old ladies signing in the dark, supposedly, and being forced to sign by these brokers, right? So that was quite a time period of reinvention, and during that time period, we had our first real taste of M&A, and that
Mm.
was where Bank of America bought Countrywide. Some people say Countrywide should have gone bankrupt before they bought them,
Yeah.
but Bank of America did save the day,
Okay.
and thank you, Bank of America. So I definitely have to say I ended up working with them for about 3 years,
Okay.
and went then to go work for Deloitte Consulting after that, where I worked a little bit more into M&A. So
Yeah.
having leveraged that experience at Bank of America, helping them with their transactions, that was helpful. That and Deloitte led me to Grant Thornton, where I worked for another 2.5 years. And then I said, you know what? I kind of want to see what I can do on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that value was created and it's been around for
Mm-hmm.
7 years. And now you're doing the
Yeah.
whole M&A advisory transactional piece of it, and you enjoy it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hope you
And
do.
it's funny. It's funny because I definitely had no idea what I was getting into, even though I thought I did. I'm like, oh, because
Yes.
I'm selling millions of dollars of work at the
Yeah.
big firms, I can do that
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize how much a brand actually factors into that. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
you mean these people were already vetted, and like, all we had to do is just show up, and oh, okay, got it. So I learned a lot about how to build a brand and how to really focus on delivery and experience,
Yeah. Yes.
as your own CEO, right?
They don't really teach you that anywhere in school or anything. How to actually bring sales, how to do a brand. Like those are the things that they need to teach you.
I
As an
I kind of
engineer.
feel like
Yeah.
100%. You know,
Yeah.
you should be in first grade, like learning
Yeah.
math, building your
Yes.
brand, and
Yes.
then
That should
PE, of
be it.
course. I mean,
I love it. So how is that? Because the economy right now, everything that's going on right now, we are in 2025. We don't know what's happening. How is that shaping your experience in the M&A advisory transactional landscape? How is it going? Do you see transactions happening? Buyers are actually buying, selling, sellers are actually selling. Like, what is your feeling of the year and the future years to come?
yeah, we have buy side mandates and we actually have sell side mandates. So it's interesting. So they're coming. It's just a different avenue, right? And so what some of that looks like is people scared of what's to come,
Mm-hmm.
or they're just tired because they're like, I do not want to go through this for another year,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
another 4 years or
Yes.
5 years, whatever it takes, right? but people just it's hard being a business owner, and every year is different. I was
Mhm.
talking to one owner who said, yeah, I've had my business for 16 years and I feel like I've had 16 different businesses, and they're not wrong, right?
That's true.
So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's I think there is right now a different sort of tired, right? Because
Mhm.
I think maybe the economy, with the certainty it is, given that, we are a week into
Mm.
um, this tariffs journey, we have to decide on, how we want to change the needle or move the needle for our companies on the
Mhm.
smallest level, right? What
Mhm.
do we focus on, or what our priorities were going into this year may not necessarily be the priorities coming out of this year. And
Mhm.
those are questions that some business owners say, you know what? I don't really want to be thinking about that again. I really
Mhm.
don't care. And at that point, yes, it makes sense for you to think about M&A.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is the process? Because you did say about the process, I don't think that a lot of people understand the length of the process that it comes to selling a business.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, we have done it quickly. It can be
Yeah.
anywhere from 5 months to 11 months. I
Okay.
think we've done it quicker than that, but
Yeah.
that was definitely on fuego in fuego.
Fuego.
It was just like it felt like we were just going massive speeds. But it was definitely was a worthwhile adventure. Essentially, what you do is always start off with your M&A strategy, your M&A
Mhm.
sell side strategy, that
Mhm.
is, and think through, okay, who do I want my buyer to be? What is
Mhm.
my company worth? Am
Mhm.
I ready to sell?
Mhm.
What's my journey after this? These are
Mhm.
all things that you have
Yeah.
to really make sure you have a good sense of.
Mhm.
And, are my employees, what's the journey for my employees after this?
Mhm.
Because the buyer that you pick, or the owner that you pick, somebody's going to have to be there to partner with that owner,
Mhm.
or that new buyer.
Yeah.
And so you have to make sure that you understand how that impacts your existing company.
Mhm.
The next piece about that is then going through that, marketing piece. So the seller marketing piece is very big, which is, once you've identified your target buyer, you want to make
Mhm.
sure, wait a minute here. All right, so how do I actually go about getting those buyers? And that's the
Yeah.
part that kind of takes a little bit more time, because you have to have like your SIM, which is confidential information memorandum. SIM is in CIM, not SIM card. And you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of, end to end,
Mhm.
what that's going to look like with that buyer. Like, can I see this person running my organization? And it's not your organization anymore, but will they keep the legacy alive,
Mhm.
or will they just save me? Right? Which is sometimes what you want. You're like, I just want you to just take it, just go. And anyways, but whatever you're looking for in the perfect buyer, that's ideally where you're doing that marketing push. You eventually want to get some indication of interest from, at least one, if not several. Ideally, you have several different suitors,
Mhm.
and you say, look, what will it take to get to an LOI? Some of that might mean they do a site visit with you. They might have a meeting, depending on how well informed your management team is. They
Mhm.
might want to have a meeting with you and your management team, learning more about the company.
Mhm.
Where it might be an all day session. It could be a couple hours on Zoom. There's many
Mhm.
ways to basically have that. And
Mhm.
then you want to make sure, you have a good LOI identified. I would advise that, unless your management team is well informed that you're doing this, to not bring them in or notify them before the LOI, because the last thing you want to do is bring them in and you have not identified exactly what it looks like, right? And so, and some things may fall out. The journey is probably not quite defined. You do want to make sure also that you have set the stage that at one point you may want to sell your company, and make sure they understand that's a possibility down the road. You
Mhm.
can plant that seed at any point, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't start giving them the names of anybody probably until you've actually signed the LOI. Once the LOI is then signed, of course, which LOI is letter of intent, you
Mhm.
want to make sure you have a good sense of what due diligence is going to look like. So, due diligence strategy and the plan. What kind of, when they're going to give you the request list, right? Which is requesting, it could be as long as 340 items. It could be as short as 100 items or 50 items. But usually it surrounds things around your operations, your financials, your
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
your technology,
Mm-hmm.
sales, marketing, all the nuances of your business. And then once you get to that, you want to get to the point where you're actually not only working through getting the deliverables to them, but ready to answer the questions that they may have around those items that they've asked for. And then, of course, you're going to go through the separation process, which is actually a hard process. And if you ask one of my analysts on the team, she was really funny. She's like, I thought negotiation just happens, during this LOI period. I'm like, she's like, I learned that you negotiate the entire time. I'm like, yep, it doesn't stop. You are negotiating from the time you meet the person all the way through to the time you're getting that final purchase agreement signed.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
definitely a journey, and it's an emotional one at that.
Yeah.
Don't think that you're not going to have a moment where you're going to cry, or at least want to cry,
Yeah.
or get angry at someone and have an outburst. And it's just, people are like, "Oh, I'm not emotional."
Yes.
Well,
Yes. So I hear like the one of the biggest pieces in there is picking up your buyer. I feel like that's like a big piece of this journey, right? It takes the longest
absolutely.
time too. Yeah. And you said something very key that said, make sure that you want to know what type of buyer you want for your business, because
Hmm.
then you have to prepare your business for that type
Hmm.
of buyer, correct?
Hmm.
So, and I think
Correct.
that that's an element that people don't really grasp on when they're creating a business. They're like, okay, well, they don't have an exit plan, and they don't really know what buyer is gonna, go into their exit plan. What would be like a few things that you help them in, like selecting the right buyer for their business and preparing that business for that buyer?
Yeah, I love that. When you think about the right buyer, you have to be thinking about, do I want a strategic buyer? Do I
Mm-hmm.
want a financial buyer?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want an individual investor,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do I want a corporation or existing entity?
Mm-hmm.
There are quite a few things that you want to be thinking about, but there's a big difference, right? For example, a PE firm, the journey is not going to be over the minute that they buy you. In fact, the journey might be just beginning, right? So it's a chance for a second bite at the apple, because their desire is to
Mm-hmm.
build you up, pump you up,
Mm-hmm.
and then sell again, so they can have a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic exit themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So your team, if they are not built that way to help kind of run the company and build it to that next level, then that might be difficult. However, you can find a PE firm that might have their own management team in place, which will make it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit easier and
Mm-hmm.
palatable for them to want to take your business. On a strategic side, you're looking at maybe potentially an existing competitor,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's in an adjacent space who just wants to take your company to the next level along with theirs, maybe
Mm-hmm.
absorb you into the mix. So your
Mm-hmm.
people might, if they have a centralized office, some people might go to that centralized office, some might stay, and then some might stay within the existing entity.
Mm-hmm.
There's different ways that might look.
Mm-hmm.
It may or may not be a huge competitive landscape for them, meaning like rising in numbers. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, the reason why someone is purchasing you is because of the promise of tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the promise of tomorrow is all about the story you're telling through the buyer process.
Wow. So that's the biggest piece, the buyer process. Yeah. And how about a family? If it's like a family
Oh
buyout,
yeah.
what does that look like?
Families. Interesting. It's always funny because no one really thinks about this, but whether you're working with your family or not, they're always your family.
Yes.
You're like, I thought I could just get rid of you. And it's like, you just keep coming back. And it's like that with the business too, right? Because you work with this person or you work with these people, and at the end of the day, they're still your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your father,
Yeah.
whatever they are to you in a familial sense. They
Yeah.
also, in addition to that, they might be your coworker and also your, let's say, your boss, right? So, I mean, these are things that you have to grapple with, and family businesses are a little bit more complex than the rest, right? Especially if you have generational um, divides in there, right? Because the younger generation may want to stay on, while the older generation may want to retire. So
Mm-hmm.
there might be something where you have to work through just what does this look like for the company as a whole. And then you have to bring it back to taking yourself out of the mix. What's best for the company? And then secondly, what's best for the family, right? I mean, for some people, they may be thinking about the family first, and
Mm-hmm.
that actually might lead them even more so to wanting to sell the company. Because sometimes the family feuds are the reason why people are like, let's just get out of this. It's really hurting our family. So, I think family does fit into this quite a bit, and it can be very challenging. Um, yeah,
Is
I
this,
mean, I can give you a story if you want.
yes, give me a story. Is this one of the most emotional parts of exiting, like family exits, or have you seen
Yeah.
other ones? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no. I think the family part is hard because you still want to have that relationship with your family,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And you also want to achieve, your personal goals as well as
Yeah.
what's best for the business, right? So
Yes.
there's a
Hmm.
lot of things kind of pulling at you.
Hmm.
Most recently, I worked on a transaction where you had, several owners, three owners in particular, and you had a family of, and I'll tell you right now, it was started by a patriarch, and his children then became part of the family. He passed, and so then the other two kids also became part owners of the business, and they were more silent in nature. And then one of the grandchildren became a part owner, and so you had literally multiple generations as part of this business. You then got a chance to really understand, what's driving each of the individuals.
Hmm.
And, we went into that engagement not knowing if the company would want to sell or not. It was really more of, let's explore what M&A could look like for the
Hmm.
company.
Hmm.
And it turned out that M&A was the best option for the company. And then the question was it a strategic buyer or was it a financial buyer that would be best for the company?
Hmm.
And ultimately, that grandson was hungry. So he was like, put me in, coach. Right. And so, the older generation was like, all right, just, let us get out. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll keep a little money in, but let us get out most of our stuff. Right. And so that's what happened for them. And it ended up working out very, very well. But I can tell you, there were a lot of contentious conversations or moments.
Yeah.
I respect it all. And the hard part as an advisor and a banker is to be able to sit back and just say, I need the family to figure this out on their own. And I need to be patient in this moment,
Hmm.
right? Because some things, it's like, for example, if you have a fight with your spouse, the last thing you want is somebody else in the middle of your fight with your spouse.
Yes.
You know, you're like, wait, this is not your conversation, right? And it's the same thing with family, right? It's like you're talking to you're fighting with your uncle. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I appreciate your comments, but let me and my uncle handle this. But they definitely look to me for advice, but I definitely want walk the fine line with that.
It feels like you need a therapist in your team. Maybe.
I learned very early on, this is management consulting side. Being a management consultant is therapy. I had clients call me at 11 o'clock at night to complain about their boss or talk about their children. But that's when you know that you've gained that trust, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it is about therapy to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Humans
It
are
seems
humans.
humans, humans. Okay, so I just noticed that your title was Chief Value Creator. What does it actually mean when you're working with the founder or business owner?
Yeah. So, I mean, our full name of our company is Dub Value Creation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the value creation part is all about the inorganic growth that companies can achieve
Mm-hmm.
given the right circumstances. And
Mm-hmm.
so, hey, shouldn't there be like there's a CEO, like a chief executive officer? Shouldn't there be one person who is the chief value creator in your company? That's where that came from. So I am the CEO and chief value creator of my company.
Now, is that trademark? Because I kind of like it for mine too.
I say, you know what? I'm all about sharing it. Just give me a little cred on the side.
I give you credit.
Give me a little
I'm
cred.
just saying.
Title by Jonathan.
You will see it on my signature with a little asterisk.
Yeah.
Jonathan Wilson is the main.
Collaboration is the way we all win, right?
Yeah,
So if
collaboration.
we're not taking a little bit from each other and learning,
It-
we're not going to grow.
we're
So
never gonna grow. The top collaborate, the bottom compete, right? So we're all about
yeah, I
collaborating.
agreed. So I agree with that. I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Okay. So, are there any specific industries that you're specializing right now? For
Yeah,
2025? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's funny because as your business goes further and further,
Mm-hmm.
you start to specialize a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
then as you go into a year, you might have to pull from other years where where you did something different, right? So this year we're very much focused on technology, manufacturing, emerging markets,
Mm-hmm.
and also professional services. So that's what we're focusing on this year. We were a little bit more broad in years past.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of also when you're starting your company, and then as my coach likes to say, the riches are in the niches, and I
Yes.
think there is value to focusing on fine tuning your skill set. And we
We,
definitely do buy side and sell side.
yes.
Do we want to one day do one or the other? I still don't know the answer to that because both are very different and they're both very exciting.
But you also focus on Main Street as well, correct? On like the mom and pop shops. Yeah.
If they're making money,
If they're, of
so
course.
and they have to be B2B focused as well.
Okay.
So like B2B is a big thing for us. There are even in consumer services and consumer goods, there's still B2B players, and so
Mm-hmm.
those are things that we really look for. Yeah, the B2C market is a little more fickle.
Okay.
There are some B2C companies that we have partnered with and we've done very well with.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably not the majority of our focal point.
Interesting. And I would think that B2C would be easy, like better, more values, easier to sell, or no, that's not the way it goes.
And the reason why B2C is, I don't know if it's tougher or if it's just comfort.
Hmm.
It tends to be, I think, for me, it's a little bit more of comfort. I think because I've worked so much with B2B companies,
Yeah. Yeah.
where
We're B2B.
there's sometimes a B2C element of it, right? For example, Bank of America, they were not only my direct employer, but they were a client twice. So,
Okay.
yeah, and so they have a B2B element and they have a B2C element,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's just yeah, so it's just a comfort zone thing.
It's like, yeah, and I also think because the organic revenue piece, right, it's harder on the B2C side because consumers there is unpredictable, especially with the economy, and so I feel like it's a little bit harder to increase the value, and then everything that's going on with the tariffs that's going to affect a lot of consumers. So yeah, I totally understand that, and you're in the B2B
Forecasting and
space.
churn
Forecast,
are one
yeah.
of those are the
Mm-hmm.
biggest things you think about your pro forma, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the forecasting it is a little bit more consistent with trends, overall
Mm-hmm.
trends in a B2B.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but B2C sometimes it can be way off, and you have to make a
Yeah.
business case for it.
Yes, and they're highly leveraged on advertisement money too. So it's kind of like you cannot sell a business that is highly leveraged on advertisement money because that doesn't mean,
I
yeah.
literally got off the phone early. I mean, I have a client that is yes, I say that I'm B2B, but you're right. I do have some clients that are B2C. So I got off the phone earlier today that was talking about how the CAC was just so high. So and CAC stands for customer acquisition cost, as some of you may know, but just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure I put that out there. But yeah, that their CAC was just so high and that they were just worried and all the things. So
And then the
yeah,
lifetime
that's
value is the customer lifetime value is so low. It's just, yeah, the B2C space is harder. I agree with you.
yeah, yeah.
How is AI? Let's talk about AI. How is
Oh
AI
yeah.
impacting the value readiness of a business for sale nowadays? Because I'm looking that a lot of people are investing in the VC world with AI startups, and how is this
Mhm.
affecting the M&A landscape?
Well, I think there's two sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
One, I want to say, how is it impacting the industry from our business standpoint? And I think honestly, if you don't have a way to incorporate AI as an M&A professional into your business by next year, even, then you're probably way behind the ball, right? So
Mm-hmm.
AI is going to help accelerate how we do our business dealings in particular, and then
Mm-hmm.
also how we think about M&A. I think that's part one. Part two is, what do companies that are being sold or people that are buying companies today, how is AI incorporated in those businesses that are actually selling? If there's an opportunity for AI to accelerate the growth
Mm-hmm.
of that company,
Mm-hmm.
then it's actually going to be something that is more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
If AI is already incorporated into the company and it's showing promise,
Mm-hmm.
that's also going to be valuable to the company.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be something where it requires a lot of manual work or there's little room to optimize via technology and AI, that's going to be less valuable
Mm-hmm.
to many buyers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And okay, let's expand on part one though, because I am interested to know more about what you're discussing. And then part two.
Mhm.
I have another question on part two.
Yeah, no. Part one is just things like, for example, when you are digesting documentation,
Mm-hmm.
there's Adobe Acrobat. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying
Mm-hmm.
to advertise, but they just launched their new AI reader, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
summarize now any like, you have a 100-page document that's in PDF form, they can summarize it for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So there's all sorts of things out
Mm-hmm.
there that will allow you to work faster
Mm-hmm.
and to accelerate positive outcomes.
And how is the AI going to change the mindset and how we see M&A?
Oh, I love that. So, it's funny. That's a tough question. How we see M&A, I think from the standpoint of, we'll see it going quicker.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also start thinking about the way that we interact with each other differently. Like, if you tell
Mm-hmm.
me that you're going to send me 15 documents and you want to hear my thoughts on it, in the next couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably not going to blink twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
If, on the other hand, you know, 2 years ago, I might have said, you know what, that's going to take a long time. How about we talk in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do have, for example, I just did a proposal yesterday
Mm-hmm.
where I was talking to a few sellers, and they were saying, wow, 3 months for us to get to an LOI, with someone who we've already identified as a buyer, seems awfully long. And I said, well, it's duration and not effort. And on top of that, there's quite a bit of work that the buyer still has to do, right? And I said, that's kind of what it might take to just get an LOI for this particular deal. And they're like, well, how do we get it down to 2 months? Well, now I'm actually kind of excited, because it's like, well, how can I help accelerate that through
Mm-hmm.
technology and AI and
Mm-hmm.
through efficiency with my team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Before, we just throw more bodies at it. I don't think we need to throw more bodies at anything anymore. I think
Yeah.
you can have a humble sized organization and still do very well.
I agree with you. And that point leads me to my next question, which is something that you talked about on part two. I've seen businesses scale instead, to like millions, 3, 4, 5 millions with like a lean team of 5 people because they're
Mm-hmm.
leveraging with AI tools. So a business like that goes for a sale, nothing AI proprietary has been made in the company, but the value is still there. Is that something to the eye of the beholder, I guess, to the eye of the buyer? Is that something still that's really high in value, even though the AI is not proprietary made in house to create all of that revenue? Yeah. Okay.
Your unique, well, I think your unique frameworks, methodologies, your secret
Mm-hmm.
sauce,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things are what has demonstrated success over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you've had year over year growth and you can
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate that next year is probably going to be higher than the previous year.
Yeah.
It's not a far-fetched assumption, right?
Okay.
If you can demonstrate that, your cost of maintain have remained sort of flat or
Hmm.
relatively flat while your revenue has been growing, if you can demonstrate over the past 3 to 4 years, and that's been the case, it's not a hard assumption to make for next year, right? So
Okay.
these are things that all factor into the assumptions of your pro forma,
Okay.
which provides that outlook of what
Yeah.
your company is worth.
Okay. No, I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to take you into, let's go into something more fun. What does Jonathan likes to do on his day off when he's not looking at contracts and negotiating with sellers and buyers?
What do days look like when you're not looking at contracts? Come on. Um, can I just say I love sleeping.
Okay. I love it. I
No,
love
I
it.
am working on building. I am working on building a family right now, so that's actually a whole different ball game. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, sleeping, watching good TV or bad TV even. Um, I'm trying to think what else do I do?
What are you watching
Travel,
right now
eat
that is
out.
good? Well, yeah.
I went into the White Lotus K hole. I
Yes.
love White Lotus, and I gotta say, I just finished the finale, and now I'm like, wait. Well, I don't want to do a spoiler, but I thought that someone died who didn't die, and
Yes.
then it kind of, and so it kind of like I was like, oh, so there's definitely a season 4,
Yeah.
and there's definitely, it just I don't know. I got a little happy in my mind, and I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of things. What else? I just watched Deal or No Deal. There's something about
I
that.
love dealer in a deal. Yeah.
Something about that I just love, and I watch pretty much anything that has like a competition element in it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why I love that stuff. I love to see how people like change their mindsets and try to win, and it's like that's just
Mm-hmm.
like the ultimate social science experiment. Survivor.
Yeah. I love that you talk about mindset because you work with so many different people.
Yeah,
And it looks to me that you're always negotiating on all kinds of sides.
yeah.
So, what makes, in your experience, like what makes a business owner mindset ready to exit? Like, where is the click that happens?
I think the click is where you've decided that number one, I was talking to someone and they were like, I keep getting all these phone calls. Do you think that I should answer them? I don't really want to deal with the process. I'm like, sometimes you gotta go when the iron's hot just to kind of figure it out, at least to be able to say no or yes. Like you don't want to just kind of keep it in the back of your mind because
Yeah.
10 years from now, if you have nobody calling you,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last thing you want to say is I had an opportunity to make millions of dollars,
Yes.
right? Like that, no one cares what you could have had,
Yeah.
right? So I think if you're getting the phone calls now, I think it's time to kind of possibly entertain the conversation, but first know your worth,
Mm-hmm.
which is get a valuation done.
Mm-hmm.
At least so you can understand if you're getting good offers or not.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing to know if you're ready. I think the second thing, obviously, if you don't feel challenged anymore, and you don't enjoy the work, maybe it's time to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may be great, maybe great for putting food on the table, but sometimes there might be another avenue to do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many different, triggers. It's going to be different for everybody, but I have to
Mm-hmm.
say there's definitely a moment where the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
But if it's consistent that way in the entire year, you're probably not doing what you love.
Yes. So, what's your exit strategy for your business?
I mean, ultimately, I would love to invest. I would love to have. I love I don't know. I like the people that I hire.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to believe in them at some point and maybe invest in them. That's the ideal scenario, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch of smaller companies that are
Mm-hmm.
all doing things that they're passionate about on their
Yeah.
side, and
Yeah.
and they have a mindset of winning,
Yes.
and you just know it's going to go somewhere, and that would be an
Mhm.
ultimate goal for me, where I can ultimately become founder and not founder and CEO, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that way you can just reap the
Like,
benefits, but not really
yeah,
make the
get rid of the
decision.
CEO title and just, just kind of roll back a little bit.
The chief value officer. You're still
Right.
gonna be
Just maybe I can be chief value officer. Even that I wouldn't mind giving away to somebody else.
it's
But
mine already, so I
I'm trying to
called.
imagine myself 63. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to be chief value officer
You'll be
at
in
that point.
Italy in one of the White Lotus seasons.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I'll be on a boat. I'll be on a boat somewhere. No, but I mean, the other side too. Eventually, probably want to fully exit the company at some point. But
Yeah,
it's a long road ahead, and
yeah.
I think there's a lot of excitement.
There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of things changing. We'll see what happens with the M&A world this year in the next 3 years. We don't know. We're hoping for the best. We wish, right? We're preparing for the best and preparing.
There's a lot of powder out there, right? And there's a lot of people that are ready to retire. It is it would be very surprising to me if we didn't have some sort of M&A boom in the next couple of years, right? Um, I even wonder if Q3 of this year might have another turning point. Because I don't know if Q2 is going to be the year based on the turmoil, or Q2 is going to be the quarter based on the turmoil. But I think at some point people get used to like whatever you put them through. Like,
Yeah,
it's like the frog. You gently boil the water a little bit.
yeah,
you know, um, it's just one of those things. Like we get used to that, and so
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
So, powder out there means basically PE firms or companies that haven't invested yet, right?
Yeah, or
What does
even
that mean?
investors that want to, or even
Yeah.
single individual wealthy investors that are just
Mm-hmm.
like, I really want to
Mm-hmm.
buy something, right?
Yeah. There's still.
But there's a lot of money out there for
Mm-hmm.
companies.
Yeah.
Whether people are holding on to it right now because they're just trying to figure out where the market's going to go, or exactly what's going to be hot in the next
Yeah.
3 to 4 years. I
Yes.
think that's probably more what we're facing. It's not that the money's not there. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of like, what's the next hot thing going to be? Because no one wants to be on the downside of that.
No. Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I thought pet rocks were coming back. Like, sorry, boo boo, that was 1975. Right? Like, it's just not what it's just not gonna happen. But actually, I'm not gonna lie, because it might come back. Pet rock might come back. That was the
We
most
may. Yeah.
genius. That was the
Yes.
most genius invention. That is my favorite thing to talk about. That's the most genius invention that ever existed. I just love
Please. So you'll be the number
it.
one buyer of that one. Okay.
I will. If someone invented the next version of the pet rock, call me up. I'm investing.
Okay. There we go.
Call me up.
So it's so great to have you, Jonathan. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to say today?
No, I mean, I said no at the same time I'm about to talk. I love that. So I guess I will say that I do believe that there's still an opportunity for businesses to grow and thrive. So
Mm-hmm.
number one, I believe in that. In every economy, there's going to be winners,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't matter what industry you're in. So there's still winners in the industries that are not thriving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of staying alert.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're setting your Google alerts to notify you everything about your business and your industry, and so you know
Mm-hmm.
what's happening and you know who's
Mm-hmm.
winning and who's not.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to change course,
Mm-hmm.
and don't let the current economy dictate your long-term strategy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But make little shifts so that you can win in the interim. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say.
Oh, I love that. That's a great, great advice. So, with that being said, I loved having you here, Jonathan. I loved your personality. You're
Thank
such
you.
an enthusiastic
Likewise.
and warm person. Like, I want to
Ah,
sell my business with you. Like,
please, hey, call me.
call
you
me.
know, my email, my number.
Yeah, I have your signature.
Yeah, there you go, boo.
I have your title signature.
Yeah, now I'm going to be on all of your emails going forward,
Now you're
right?
going to
Because
be
you're
in
going to have
all
cheap
of my
value for
emails.
yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go.
And we should do a part two, maybe in a few months or so,
I'm
because
down with that.
I want to know from here what the outcome was for this, for the industry at the
Oh,
end
we
of the
could do
year.
like a
That would be
Q3
yes.
like recap on Q2. I like it. I literally, I call it a, it's a show, right?
Yeah.
It's our president's show. So I
Yes.
watch the president's show every day, and I feel like I can't miss an episode
No.
because if you miss an episode, you're like, oh, can someone give me the cliff notes? You gotta, you gotta make sure you know what's happening, right?
So that's one of the shows that you watch too when you're not.
That's I watch it daily. Don't miss it. I don't miss a show, even on the weekends. It's a gift that keeps giving.
It's actually it's very entertaining. Like
It is. Yeah, it
it's
is.
it's kind of like a reality TV show unscripted. It's just
Yeah.
it's made in Hollywood, kind
One
of.
day it's 54% tariffs. Next day it's 104%
Yeah,
tariffs.
it's just we don't know anymore.
We're good. I mean, one day we're negotiating. The other day it's no negotiating.
It's not.
So I don't
One day,
know.
why are you not buying more from us? And then
Yeah.
I'm gonna put more tariffs because you're not buying more from us. Okay, well,
It's just, hey.
it's
But
so
I really am here for it because I do think what's gonna come out of this are gonna be some additional winners. I just don't know who those people are
yeah,
gonna be.
yeah.
But there's in every market there's gonna be winners. So you gotta
In every
I'm just
market,
curious who it's gonna be.
yeah, the innovators are gonna happen, especially during COVID. There was people innovating, they thrived, right? They did some
Mm-hmm.
great businesses. Now this is gonna happen as well. We will see. We will see.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
story is yet to be written.
Well, it's being written as we as we talk. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
yeah, we're in somebody's universe. Just they're
We
kind of
we are
puppeting.
the little. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. We're in some person universe out
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
we're in somebody else has control, but we're definitely we think we're in control of our own stuff.
We're not in control.
But
Well,
it's all right. I'll operate in the auspice that I am in control. That's just
yeah, you're in control of your world.
I'm just gonna. Hey, whether it's false belief or real belief, I'm in. So,
Oh
anyways,
man, but we definitely. Let's meet up here because you
it'll be
are
fun.
close by.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah,
have some coffee at least and have a
yeah. I
good
love how we did the
conversation.
interview and we're both a mile apart from each other.
Yes.
Love that. We didn't even think about it, but it's
We
okay.
didn't. It did not have. Oh, so annoying, but okay. Well,
All right,
thank you so
good.
much, Jonathan, for coming into Scale to
Of
Exit.
course.
You are absolutely the bomb in the M&A world,
Oh,
and
that was fun.
It was a great conversation. So I'll see
You're
you
fun.
next time when you can talk to us about all the deals that happened and did not happen in the stories.
Sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. All right, have a good.
And for everybody, listeners, thank you so much for joining. Adios, muchachos. Hasta la vista. Bye.